The Joe Rogan Experience.
Talking about history in India, she has been invaded over thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Only invaded. We've never invaded anybody else. She's not had the time. India's like, just give me a break. Yeah, the Portuguese, the British, the Mughals, like from back in time. And the history of India, I mean, I'm not a historian and I don't claim to be, but I find it really fascinating. I love culture, and especially the culture of India. Like, you will see my grandmother was Catholic because she was raised in a part of India which was colonized, and a lot of people with Kerala, a lot of people were converted into Catholicism. And she grew up Catholic, and, she followed it for a really long time in her life. India is like hyper diverse because of how many people have kind of made it her roots. So when you go to India, the amount of diversity you will see, the range of people that you will meet is impossible to fathom. Like, an Indian face does not look like a particular person. Or the amount of cultures, the languages. We have written and spoken languages which are almost like 20-something or in their 30s. Absolutely different alphabet, absolutely different sound. If I go to another state, I won't be able to understand what people are saying.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Wow. How many different languages are spoken there?
About 28 to 30. But there are dialects in their hundreds.
Oh, wow.
Don't even get into the dialects. I just speak English and Hindi. Understand a little bit of Punjabi and Marathi, but it's really amazing.
No, but
Have you ever been, by the way?
no, I haven't.
Oh, Joe, you have to. You would really, like, you're the kind of guy who likes a deep dive.
Yeah.
You would really lose yourself, I think,
Well, I
in an
want to
amazing
go
way.
just to see it for many things, but just to see that one immense temple that was carved entirely out of stone.
Oh, yeah.
Is one of the great mysteries of archaeology.
But there are quite a few if you go, especially south of India, and the caves, if you go inside the Andaman and Nicobar, like the caves, you'll see from thousands and tens and thousands of years ago illustrations that you're like, how did this happen? How could this temple have been chiseled? Or how could, these stones have been moved at that time?
Right.
It's just, it made me very, very curious about, like, what kind of tools did we have back then?
Well, there's a lot of holes in human history.
Yeah, for sure.
Graham Hancock has a great quote. He says that we are a species with amnesia. And I think that's accurate. And I think when you find some of the great archaeological wonders where people just have decided, oh, they built it this way, and then just let it go. And then other people start looking at it and go, wait a minute, how? How did they do this? Like, when did they do this? Like, what's the historical record of this? Because this is kind of nuts. This seems to indicate like a very advanced, sophisticated society.
Yeah, a very advanced civilization. Like, one of the oldest civilizations in the world, along with the Mayans, is the Indus Valley civilization, which is the north of India.
Yeah.
And I just remember studying about it in school, and that's my maximum understanding of that civilization, but also like having visited the Indus River, I guess. But I remember like the artifacts that were found, and like if you do a deep dive into how that civilization existed and then how it was erased, and it makes you question, like, there had to be some seriously advanced, like, scientific understanding that was eventually lost as human evolution happened, where we lose a civilization and then comes back again. But it just makes you wonder about early humans and how fascinatingly advanced we would have had to be to do all of that.
100%. Yeah,
without the technology and stuff that we have. I mean,
I think they had technology. I think they had a different technology.
I think so too.
I think they had to. This one particular temple that I'm talking about, Jamie, do you know the temple I'm talking about? The one insanely massive one that's built into the side of a mountain?
Kalisa Temple.
This is it.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
This is what I meant.
Because
Ajanta,
the precision
Ellora
first of all, there's no like understanding of where the stone went. Like, they moved who knows
and
how
how
many.
did you take out all of those tons of rocks?
Yes.
Out of,
it's
like, look at
so insane.
look
The
at the-
precision is spectacular. It's so nuts when you see like videos
How
of people going
huge is
through
that?
it. Immense, absolutely immense, and incredibly precise, and just carved out of a solid piece of stone.
Like,
The
if you
whole thing is carved out of the mountain.
think about how old that is. Like, this is all BC, before Christ, like thousands and thousands of years
Yeah.
BC. And the history of India, like, hence the diversity. You see, it's one of the oldest civilizations in the world. And then, like, how do you explain that? Look at that image.
So it says it's 12. What does it say? How old did it say it was?
It's
Jim?
1200.
1200.
How do they know
BC.
that?
That can't be right.
1,200 years old?
But even-
See, there's a lot of just estimates based on what was the civilization at the time.
Yeah.
And there's no, like, this is the thing with Peru. Like, Sacsayhuaman and a lot of these places where they
Yeah.
attribute it to the Incas. But you see, like, traditional Inca structures on top of these immense stones that are 100 tons. They're carved in these weird jigsaw patterns as to absorb the energy if there's an earthquake.
Wow.
Like, it's weird shit. And it's like, okay, well, who did that? So, like, oh, the Incas did it. Like, how? How'd they do that? Because all their other structures are smaller
Different.
stones stacked on top of each other in a way that, like, you could see a person carrying them and cutting
Yeah.
them. Makes sense. But there's a lot of stuff like that temple. Like, explain to me what you used.
There's no explanation.
Like, how? Like, just
How did you
metal?
get-
You just use metal and carve that out like that?
And, like, just a chisel and human.
And if you fuck up once, it's
Yeah.
over. Because you're not putting things on top of things. Like, oh, this block sucks. Let's get a new block. No, you're
Do
carving.
you change the design if there's a fuck up? Like, you know what I mean? If you're trying
That's a
to
good
build
question.
like a human form and you chisel off the nose,
Right.
like, do you turn it into something else? I don't know. Probably. Otherwise, because it's just one piece, and you're right, you're not adding
Yeah.
anything to it.
Well, in Egypt, there's indications that they abandoned certain pieces because they cracked. Because when you're dealing with, granite, and
Yeah.
there's certain, specifically, there's a gigantic obelisk that they were carving out. That, I mean, I think it was like 1,300 tons, like something bananas. Like, okay, how are you going to move this fucking thing? But they got to a certain point where there was a crack in it, and so they had to abandon it. And so it's
And
still
it's
there.
just there?
Yeah, it's still. I think that's in. It might be in Aswan. I'm not sure where it is. But
Do you know, like, the theories around the Egyptian pyramids, obviously? Like, how were those blocks carried up?
there's
and
no valid theory.
how-
Zero.
Was it in that shape and so precisely geometrically,
Well, it's even more complicated now because there's an Italian scientist that we had on recently called Filippo Biondi. Am I saying it right? Biondi? He's amazing accent, this guy. He's fucking incredible. But he's using, what is it, radio Doppler tomography. So
Wow.
it's a type of satellite imagery that uses some technology to get a vision of what's under the ground. And they've used this successfully to show known caverns in the ground and known pyramids. And they even used it in Italy to show that they can look through a 1.2 kilometer mountain and see underneath it this particle collider and have an exact dimension of the particle collider and see what the outlet. So they used this on the pyramids and they
And?
found these immense structures under the pyramids that go over a kilometer into the ground with massive, these huge 20 meter diameter columns that have these huge circular coils wrapped around them. No one knows what the hell they're looking at, but they're in very precise positions. They've done over 200 scans of these things. They don't know what they are. They don't know what's the purpose of all this, who made this. So if this turns out to be accurate, and they're very confident that it's accurate, and they're starting to look into it deeper, and they're trying to figure out how to get down in there and explore with drones or something. Then the whole thing gets thrown into question because it's preposterous enough that you have someone who's able to cut and place 2,300,000 stones that's
Right.
perfectly aligned to true north, south, east, and west. Some of them weigh as much as 80 tons.
Tons, which
that
is insane.
They come from 500 miles away through the mountains, no roads. Like, how'd you do it? That's crazy.
That's crazy in
but
itself.
if there's structures underneath that go a kilometer into the ground, And like there's a giant, like a huge square at the bottom. They don't know what it is, but these are structures. These are not like something that is just a naturally occurring stone.
Yeah, it was man-made. And
Show her an image of it. It's fucking kooky.
so what is that like? How
So these are these columns. This is like what the images are showing you, and the three-dimensional
wild.
replication of what they think is. That's what they think it looks like underneath there. They have no idea what these things are.
what?
There's also, is that Hawara that has that underground labyrinth? They've also found these. Herodotus wrote about these labyrinths. There's a great channel on YouTube called Uncharted X by this guy Ben Van Kerkwyk, who's been on the podcast before. He's great, and they've used radio. They used ground penetrating radar in that location. They found that these immense labyrinths are real. They're there. They're huge. Herodotus said it's greater than Giza, and it's underground. And in the center of one of these atriums, there is a 40-meter metallic object that's shaped like a tic tac. It's in the center of this. Yes. So there's a bunch of shit that they can't explain down there. Where you're like, okay, what is this? They also know that a lot of these civilizations, like later versions of it, took from some of the older sites and started building new things or built on top of them, like very disrespectfully. But nobody had an idea of like the importance of history back then. You're just trying to stay alive. And so they found all these stones. Let's use these stones. And
Oh my
so,
gosh, totally. In India, like when we were colonized, you hear stories of, the British officers telling like little kids that, hey, I'll give you £2, go and get the gold statue from this temple or whatever. And you don't have comprehension of what the value of historical things were, that there was so much that was taken from India in terms of wealth and history and historical artifacts, and the Kohinoor diamond, which is still on the Queen's crown, which came from India. And like so many things.
the Queen of England?
Yeah.
She has a diamond on her crown that
Can
she
you
stole from
pull it up? Kohinoor diamond, Kohino.
Give it back. Give it.
Yeah, we've been asking for it for a minute. We have.
Well, the whole history of England and India is nuts too.
Look at
That's
that
the diamond.
diamond. Yeah.
Whoa! How big
the
is that
crown
sucker?
of the Queen.
How
Isn't that
big is that
crazy?
thing?
How big would that be?
Whoa! What is
Yeah.
that worth? What's 100? Well, besides the historical value of it, which is probably priceless, what is 105 carats worth? That's nuts.
A couple
Imagine
of
walking
million,
around with a
couple of
rock like
hundred
that in your
million.
hand.
Yeah.
Woo!
I mean, that's what I'm saying. The royalty in India had so much jewelry and wealth and stuff that was pillaged and just
Yeah.
taken.
Well, the history of India is fascinating. Like in the Vedic texts and the descriptions of Vimanas. Have you ever read any of that stuff?
Yeah, the Vedas.
Yeah.
Not extensively, but clearly you have.
The Vimanas it's like, what are you talking about? You're talking about flying crafts?
Yeah.
Like, what do you...
That's the thing. You go, if you do a deep dive into the mythology of India and the stories that come from there, the kind of technology that has been mentioned in these ancient texts, like the Vimanas, you're saying, you have flying objects, you have spears with some sort of energy, you have bows and arrows with some sort of energy that travels beyond time and light. And there's so much of all of this stuff referenced back then, which maybe humans thought was magic, but was some form of ancient technology, like who's to say? But we do definitely believe in Indian mythology, if you go back into Hinduism and the incredible stories that exist. Like, I love to think about where the origin, like where it must have come from.
Yeah.
But there's so many fascinating stories from then.
Yeah, I have an opinion that most people that were writing things down back then were trying to document a truth.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think they were trying to make up stories.
No, I think it was definitely their truth.
Yeah.
But from our perspective now, we have to be like, how do you break down the truth of, that there was this light that arrived from miles and miles away, and it felt like, I don't know, was it a bomb? Like, what was it?
Right.
What was it of that time?
Right.
So it's cool to kind of try and interpret that. I mean, I believe in the mysticism and the magic of ancient humans and, the beginning of time. There's no way to explain what and how that was. We have the information we do from religious texts and historians of the past, but it's just really fascinating to think about how resilient and human beings have been and how evolutions have had the same problems over time, but we kind of just navigate it through different worlds,